The year was 2147, and humanity had finally made its first official contact with an alien species. The aliens, known as the Vryn, were tall, sleek creatures with shimmering skin that reflected light like polished metal. They spoke in melodic tones through translators, their voices calm but laced with condescension. To them, humans were little more than primitive beings, curious relics of a backward civilization. Captain Ryan Carter stood in the center of the observation deck aboard a neutral space station. It was a tense meeting, the air thick with unspoken hostility. Around him, diplomats from both sides gathered, trying to bridge the gap between two vastly different species. But it quickly became clear that the Vryn viewed humanity as insignificant. Their leader, a towering figure named Zinkar, tilted his head slightly, his glowing eyes scanning the room before speaking. "We have observed your kind," Zinkar said, his voice smooth yet dismissive. "Your technology is rudimentary, your weapons laughable. You are not ready for the stars." Ryan clenched his fists, struggling to maintain his composure. He had spent years commanding ships and leading missions, always believing in humanity's potential. Hearing these aliens mock his people stung more than he cared to admit. Still, he forced himself to remain calm. Diplomacy was key here. Anger wouldn't solve anything. As part of the cultural exchange, Ryan presented a standard-issue plasma pistol, one of Earth's most advanced firearms at the time. He held it up, explaining its design and capabilities. The weapon wasn't perfect, but it represented decades of human ingenuity and progress. The Vryn, however, erupted into laughter. Their sharp, musical chuckles echoed through the chamber, making Ryan's face burn with embarrassment. "This? A weapon?" one of the Vryn asked, amusement dripping from every word. "It is no better than a child's toy." Ryan swallowed hard, gripping the pistol tightly. "Don't underestimate us," he said firmly, though his voice betrayed a hint of frustration. "We've survived wars, famine, and countless challenges. Humanity doesn't give up easily." Zinkar stepped closer, towering over Ryan. His expression remained unreadable, but there was a glint of mockery in his eyes. "Survival does not equal strength," he replied. "You cling to existence while we shape destiny. Perhaps one day you will earn our respect, but today is not that day." The meeting ended shortly after, leaving Ryan fuming. Back on his ship, he paced the narrow corridors, replaying the encounter in his mind. How dare they laugh at humanity? How dare they dismiss everything Earth had accomplished? But beneath his anger was something else, a spark of determination. If the Vryn thought humans were weak, they would soon learn otherwise. That night, as Ryan stared out at the endless expanse of stars, he made a silent vow. Humanity might not have the flashy technology or arrogance of the Vryn, but they had something far greater, resilience. And if push came to shove, Ryan would do whatever it took to prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars, even if it meant going toe-to-toe with the so-called superior beings. The days following the disastrous meeting with the Vryn grew increasingly tense. News of humanity's weakness spread quickly among the alien species, emboldening them to act more aggressively. The Vryn began encroaching on Earth's borders, seizing resources and establishing outposts without permission. Humanity's protests were met with indifference. The Vryn believed they had nothing to fear from such a primitive race. Lieutenant Laura Bennett was stationed at a remote outpost near the edge of human-controlled space. Her team consisted of 12 soldiers, all armed with standard plasma rifles and handguns. They had been tasked with monitoring Vryn activity in the region, but no one expected trouble until it arrived. It started with a faint hum in the distance, a sound that grew louder by the second. Laura stepped outside the outpost's main building, her eyes scanning the horizon. A fleet of sleek, silver ships descended from the sky, their shapes sharp and angular like blades. The Vryn had come. "Everyone, get ready," Laura shouted, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. She grabbed her rifle and signaled for her team to take defensive positions. The outpost's walls were reinforced, but they wouldn't hold long against an attack. The Vrin ships hovered overhead, and beams of bright blue energy shot down, striking the ground around the outpost. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the air, knocking some of the soldiers off their feet. Laura steadied herself against the wall, her heart pounding as she watched the enemy disembark. The Vrin moved with unnatural speed, their bodies shielded by glowing barriers that seemed impenetrable. Plasma bolts fired by Laura's team bounced harmlessly off these shields, eliciting smug grins from the aliens. One of them raised a hand, and a burst of energy surged toward the outpost, blowing apart part of the outer wall. "We can't hit them," one of the soldiers yelled, panic creeping into his voice. "What do we do?" Laura gritted her teeth, her mind racing. She knew they couldn't win this fight. Not directly. But giving up wasn't an option either. "Fall back," she ordered. "We need to regroup and find cover." Her team scrambled to obey, retreating deeper into the outpost while laying down suppressive fire. It didn't stop the Vrin, but it slowed them enough for the humans to escape. Laura stayed behind until everyone else was safe, then sprinted toward the nearest building just as another blast tore through the area where she had been standing moments earlier. Inside, the soldiers huddled together, breathing heavily. Some were injured, their faces pale with fear. Laura clenched her fists, frustration bubbling inside her. How could they fight something so powerful? Their weapons were useless, their defenses inadequate. For the first time in her career, she felt truly helpless. But even in the face of overwhelming odds, Laura refused to give up. She turned to her team, her voice firm despite the chaos around them. "Listen to me," she said. "We're not done yet. We'll fall back to the secondary bunker and call for reinforcements. If we stick together, we can make it." Her words seemed to rally the soldiers, giving them a sliver of hope. As they prepared to move again, Laura glanced out a shattered window at the advancing Vrin. Their laughter echoed in her ears, mocking her and her people. Her jaw tightened, and a fierce determination burned in her chest. "You think we're weak," she muttered under her breath. "We'll see about that." With renewed resolve, Laura led her team through the ruins of the outpost, dodging blasts and ducking behind cover. Every step was a gamble, every moment fraught with danger. But they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that surrender meant extinction. Somewhere in the depths of her mind, Laura vowed to fight back, not just for herself, but for all of humanity. The Vrin might have the advantage now, but the war was far from over. Back on Earth, the situation was dire. Reports of Vrin attacks poured in from outposts across the galaxy, each one painting a grim picture. Humanity's defenses were crumbling under the weight of the aliens' superior technology. Governments scrambled to respond, but conventional weapons simply weren't enough. The Vrin's energy shields made plasma rifles and missiles useless, leaving human forces defenseless. In a secret underground laboratory, Dr. Alan Hayes worked tirelessly on a solution. The middle-aged man with graying hair and tired eyes, Alan had spent decades developing advanced weaponry for Earth's military. This time, however, the stakes were higher than ever. He knew humanity needed something revolutionary, something that could level the playing field against the Vrin. Alan's answer was the railgun. Unlike traditional firearms, which relied on explosive force or energy beams, the railgun used electromagnetic fields to accelerate projectiles to near-light speeds. The sheer kinetic energy of these projectiles could punch through even the strongest shields. It was a bold idea, but it came with risks. The weapon required immense power and precision handling, and its effects on organic targets, or ships, were unpredictable. General Marcus Cole, a stern man with a reputation for being no-nonsense, arrived at the lab to inspect Alan's progress. "Is it ready?" he asked without preamble. Alan wiped his hands on a rag and sighed. "It's functional, but untested in combat. We don't know how it will perform against the Vrin." Marcus frowned. "We don't have time to wait. If this thing works, it could turn the tide. If it doesn't..." He trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. "I understand," Alan said quietly, "but you need someone's skill to operate it. One mistake, and it could destroy your ship, or worse." Marcus nodded. "That's why I'm assigning Ryan Carter and his crew. They've faced the Vryn before. If anyone can handle this, it's them." Ryan wasn't thrilled about the assignment. When he arrived at the lab, he found Alan tinkering with the massive railgun mounted on a prototype warship. The weapon looked intimidating, a long barrel surrounded by coils of wire, connected to a humming power core. Ryan crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow. "This is our big plan. A glorified cannon." "It's not just a cannon," Alan replied sharply. "This thing fires slugs at speed so fast they'll tear through anything. Shields, armor, it doesn't matter. But it's experimental. You'll need steady hands and nerves of steel." Ryan glanced at the weapon again, then back at Alan. "And if it blows up in our faces?" Alan shrugged. "Then we're all dead anyway. Look, I didn't build this for fun. It's our only shot." Laura Bennett joined the briefing later, having been reassigned to Ryan's crew after her narrow escape from the outpost. She listened intently as Alan explained how the railgun worked, her eyes narrowing with determination. "If this can hurt them, I'm in," she said firmly. "We can't let them keep pushing us around." Ryan appreciated her enthusiasm, but remained cautious. "We're flying blind here," he warned. "The Vryn won't give us a second chance if this fails." Over the next few days, the crew trained rigorously, learning how to operate the railgun and coordinate their movements during battle. The weapon required precise calculations. Firing too early or too late could mean missing the target entirely. Despite the pressure, morale slowly improved. For the first time since the Vryn arrived, there was a glimmer of hope. On the day of departure, Ryan stood on the bridge of the ship, staring at the railgun mounted prominently on the hull. It was a symbol of defiance, proof that humanity wasn't ready to give up. As the engines roared to life, he turned to his crew. "This isn't just about winning," he said. "It's about showing the Vryn, and ourselves, that we're more than what they think we are." With that, the ship launched into space, carrying humanity's last hope toward the unknown. The journey into contested space was anything but smooth. Ryan Carter and his crew aboard the Eclipse Asterisk, knew they were venturing into dangerous territory, but none of them expected the level of tension that filled the ship as they approached Vryn-controlled regions. Every creak of the hull, every flicker of the lights, seemed to echo louder than usual. The weight of their mission hung over them like a storm cloud. Ryan spent most of his time on the bridge, staring at the navigation charts and planning their route. He wanted to avoid direct confrontations until they could test the railgun in real combat. Laura Bennett worked alongside him, monitoring sensor readings for any sign of Vryn activity. Her sharp eyes caught even the smallest anomalies, and her calm demeanor helped keep the crew focused. "Anything yet?" Ryan asked one evening, breaking the silence. Laura shook her head. "Nothing major. Just a few patrols here and there. They don't seem to know we're out here." "That won't last long," Ryan muttered. "Once they spot us, it'll get messy." Alan Hayes, who had insisted on joining the mission to oversee the railgun's performance, chimed in from his station. "Just make sure you give me enough time to lock onto a target. This thing isn't exactly point and shoot." Ryan nodded. "Understood. We'll do this carefully." Days passed without incident, but the crew remained on edge. Then, one morning, the sensors lit up with warnings. A squadron of Vryn fighters was approaching fast. Ryan immediately ordered the ship to drop out of its cruising speed and prepare for battle. The crew scrambled to their stations, hearts pounding. "Here we go," Laura said under her breath as she plotted the enemy's trajectory. The Vryn ships closed in, surrounding the Eclipse Asterisk in a tight formation. One of them transmitted a message, a mocking laugh followed by a demand for surrender. Ryan clenched his fists but kept his voice steady when he responded. "We're not going anywhere," he said into the comms. "You want to fight? You've got one." The Vryn didn't waste time. Energy beams lashed out, striking the Eclipse shields and causing the entire ship to shudder. Alarms blared as the crew fought to stabilize the vessel. Laura barked orders, rerouting power to critical systems while keeping an eye on the enemy. "Target the lead ship," Ryan shouted. "Alan, get ready." Alan's hands hovered over the controls, sweat beading on his forehead. The railgun hummed to life, its coils glowing faintly as it charged. On the view screen, the lead Vrin fighter grew larger as the Eclipse lined up its shot. "Almost there," Alan whispered, his voice trembling. "Fire," Ryan commanded. With a deafening roar, the railgun unleashed its payload. The projectile streaked across space, invisible except for the faint ripple it left behind. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a blinding flash, the lead Vrin ship exploded into fragments, its advanced shields utterly useless against the sheer kinetic force of the impact. The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at the view screen in stunned disbelief. The remaining Vrin ships hesitated, clearly unprepared for such devastation. Ryan broke the silence with a grin. "Well," he said, "that worked better than I thought." Laura let out a shaky laugh. "I think we just made our point." The Vrin quickly recovered and resumed their attack, but the damage was done. Their confidence was shaken, and the Eclipse used the confusion to slip away. As the ship limped back to safer territory, the crew erupted into cheers. For the first time since the war began, humanity had struck a blow that the Vrin couldn't ignore. Ryan leaned back in his chair, exhaustion washing over him. They had proven the railgun's potential, but he knew this was only the beginning. The Vrin wouldn't underestimate them again, and neither would anyone else. The first encounter with the Vrin came sooner than expected. Ryan's ship, the Eclipse was patrolling a contested sector when alarms blared, signaling the approach of enemy vessels. On the bridge, tension crackled like static electricity as the crew scrambled to prepare for battle. Laura stood at her station, fingers flying over the tactical console, while Ryan gripped the edge of his command chair. "Multiple contacts," Laura reported, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "They're closing fast." Ryan nodded, his jaw tight. "Bring us about. Prepare the railgun, but hold fire until I give the order." The Vrin ships loomed larger on the view screen, their sleek, angular designs glowing faintly in the dark void of space. They moved with eerie precision, surrounding the Eclipse in a calculated maneuver. One of the alien vessels transmitted a message, a melodic yet mocking tone that echoed through the ship. "You are outnumbered," the Vrin voice said. "Surrender now, and we may spare your lives." Ryan clenched his fists but forced himself to stay calm. "Not today," he muttered under his breath. To his crew, he added, "Stay sharp. We've got one shot at this." The Vrin opened fire without warning, their energy beams slicing through space toward the Eclipse. The ship shuddered under the impact, shields flaring as they absorbed the blows. Laura barked orders, directing auxiliary power to reinforce the defenses. Meanwhile, Alan, stationed near the railgun controls, monitored its systems with nervous intensity. "They're testing us," Laura said, her eyes locked on the tactical display. "They think we're just another easy target." Ryan smirked. "Let's prove them wrong." As the Vrin closed in, Ryan gave the order. "Target the lid ship. Fire the railgun." Alan hesitated for half a second before pressing the trigger. With a deafening hum, the railgun roared to life. A projectile streaked out of the barrel, invisible to the naked eye, except for the faint ripple it left in its wake. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a blinding flash, the lead Vrin ship erupted into a cloud of debris. The bridge fell silent. Even the crew, who had trained extensively with the weapon, couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. On the view screen, the remaining Vrin ships slowed, their movements uncertain. Clearly, they hadn't expected such devastation. "What was that?" Laura asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "That," Ryan replied, a fierce grin spreading across his face, "was humanity's answer." The Vryn quickly recovered from their shock and resumed their attack, but the tide had turned. The Eclipse's crew worked together seamlessly, using the Railgun to devastating effect. Each shot tore through the alien shields as if they didn't exist, leaving their ships vulnerable. The Vryn, once arrogant and dismissive, began retreating. One by one, their vessels flooded the battlefield. When the last enemy ship disappeared into the distance, the bridge erupted in cheers. The crew hugged each other, their faces alight with relief and triumph. Ryan allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before turning to Laura. "We did it," he said simply. Laura nodded, still processing what had just happened. "They won't laugh at us anymore." Alan joined them, wiping sweat from his brow. "That was just the beginning," he said. "Word will spread. The Vryn know we're not helpless now." Ryan looked out at the stars, his expression thoughtful. The victory was important, but it wasn't enough. The war was far from over, and humanity still had a long way to go. Still, for the first time since meeting the Vryn, he felt a spark of hope. "We showed them what we're capable of," Ryan said finally. "But this is only round one. Let's make sure we're ready for the next fight." News of the Railgun's success spread like wildfire. Across human-controlled space, morale soared as reports came in of the Vryn retreating from skirmishes they had once dominated. The aliens' arrogance was shaken, replaced by uncertainty and fear. For the first time, humanity had a weapon that could match and surpass their advanced technology. General Marcus Cole wasted no time capitalizing on the momentum. He ordered mass production of railguns, equipping Earth's fleet with the new weapons. At the same time, Ryan Carter and his crew were hailed as heroes. Their victory became a rallying cry for humanity, proof that even the most overwhelming odds could be overcome with ingenuity and determination. But the war was far from over. Emboldened by their newfound strength, Earth launched a coordinated counteroffensive. Ryan and Laura led multiple missions, targeting key Vryn installations and supply lines. Each strike pushed the aliens further back, forcing them to abandon territories they had claimed without resistance just months earlier. The battles weren't easy. The Vryn adapted quickly, developing countermeasures to mitigate the railgun's effectiveness. They deployed thicker shielding around their ships and began using decoys to confuse human forces. Despite these challenges, Ryan and his crew remained relentless. Every mission brought lessons learned. Every failure paved the way for future successes. One particularly grueling operation took place near a massive Vryn mining facility. The facility was heavily guarded, its defenses nearly impenetrable. Ryan's team approached cautiously, knowing this would be one of their toughest fights yet. As they drew closer, Laura studied the tactical display, her brow furrowed in concentration. "They're ready for us," she said grimly. "Look at those shield arrays. They've reinforced everything." Ryan nodded. "We'll have to hit them hard and fast. No room for mistakes." The battle began with a barrage of energy fire from the Vryn, forcing the Eclipse to dodge and weave through the chaos. Alan worked frantically at his station, recalibrating the railgun for maximum impact. When the moment came, Ryan gave the order, and the railgun fired with devastating precision. The projectile tore through the outer defenses, creating an opening for the rest of the fleet to move in. For hours, the humans fought fiercely, pushing deeper into the facility despite heavy resistance. Casualties mounted on both sides, but the tide slowly turned in humanity's favor. By the time the dust settled, the mining facility was in ruins, another blow to the Vryn's resources. Back on Earth, the cost of the war weighed heavily on everyone. Families mourned loved ones lost in battle. Cities bore scars from alien attacks, and the strain of constant conflict threatened to divide nations. Yet, amidst the pain, there was unity, a shared resolve to protect their home, and prove that humanity was worth fighting for. Laura often found herself reflecting on the sacrifices made during the war. She thought about the soldiers who had given their lives, the civilians caught in the crossfire, and the countless others who endured hardship because of the Vrin's aggression. It fueled her determination to see the war through to the end. As the war dragged on, the Vrin grew increasingly desperate. Their once superior tactics faltered under the relentless pressure of human forces. Retaliatory strikes became cruel and indiscriminate, targeting civilian colonies and leaving destruction in their wake. But instead of breaking humanity's spirit, it only strengthened their resolve. Ryan stood on the bridge of the Eclipse Asterisk, staring at a map of contested space. The final phase of the war was approaching, and he knew it would demand everything they had. Turning to Laura, he said quietly, "This isn't just about winning anymore. It's about making sure they never underestimate us again." She met his gaze, her expression resolute. "Then let's finish this." The final phase of the war was set in motion. Ryan Carter devised a daring plan to strike at the heart of the Vrin Empire, their homeworld. Intelligence reports indicated that the central command hub on the planet coordinated all their military operations. If humanity could destroy it, the Vrin's ability to wage war would collapse. To carry out the mission, Earth's fleet constructed a massive orbital railgun platform called Aegis Asterisk. It was the largest weapon humanity had ever built, capable of firing projectiles powerful enough to penetrate planetary defenses. The operation required precise timing and coordination, as the Vrin would surely defend their homeworld with everything they had. Ryan and his crew volunteered to lead the assault, knowing the risks but determined to see it through. As the fleet approached the Vrin homeworld, tension aboard the Eclipse Asterisk was palpable. The ship's corridors were silent except for the hum of engines and the occasional murmur of voices. Laura sat in her quarters, staring at a photo of her family. She thought about how much had changed since the war began, and how much she hoped would change if they succeeded. Taking a deep breath, she tucked the photo away and returned to the bridge. The Vrin detected the fleet long before they reached orbit. Thousands of alien ships swarmed to intercept them, creating a wall of fire and energy beams. The battle was chaotic, explosions lighting up space like fireworks. Ryan barked orders, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Keep us moving. Focus on clearing a path to the planet." The Eclipse Asterisk weaved through enemy fire, its shields flickering under the strain. Alan worked tirelessly at his station, ensuring the railgun remained operational. Laura coordinated the fleet's movements, guiding smaller ships to flank the Vrin and draw their attention away from the Aegis Asterisk. Every second felt like an eternity, but slowly the humans pushed forward. When the Aegis Asterisk finally entered firing range, Ryan gave the order. "Fire." The orbital platform roared to life, its massive barrel glowing with energy. A projectile launched with unimaginable force, hurtling toward the Vrin homeworld. The aliens scrambled to intercept it, but their efforts were futile. The slug pierced through their planetary shields and struck the command hub with catastrophic impact. The explosion lit up the atmosphere, sending shockwaves rippling across the surface. The Vrin fleet faltered, their chain of command shattered. Without leadership, their remaining ships broke formation and fled. Humanity had won. In the aftermath, diplomats from both sides gathered for peace talks. Zinkar, the Vrin leader who had once mocked humanity, stood face to face with Ryan. His expression was unreadable, but there was no trace of arrogance left. "You have proven yourselves," he said quietly. "We underestimated you. That will not happen again." Ryan nodded, his voice firm. "This war cost us both dearly. Let's make sure it never happens again." The treaty was signed soon after, marking the end of hostilities. Earth and the Vrin agreed to coexist peacefully, sharing resources and knowledge while respecting each other's boundaries. Though wary of future conflicts, both sides recognized the importance of cooperation. Back on Earth, Ryan and Laura attended a ceremony honoring those who had fought and died in the war. As Ryan looked out at the crowd, he felt a mix of pride and humility. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger than ever. They weren't perfect, but they had proven they could stand toe-to-toe with anyone. Later that night, Ryan stood on a balcony overlooking the city skyline. Laura joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "What now?" she asked softly. Ryan smiled faintly. "Now, we rebuild, and we keep looking to the stars." Together, they gazed upward, imagining what the future might hold. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but humanity had taken its first steps toward claiming its place among the stars, and nothing would stop them from reaching further.